The credit card declined at Target. Not my credit card, my mother's. I was standing beside her in the checkout line, watching her face cycle through confusion, embarrassment, and finally resignation as the cashier ran the card a third time. "I'm sorry, ma'am, do you have another form of payment?" My mother's hands shook slightly as she dug through her worn leather purse. "Let me try my debit card." "Mom, I've got it," I said, already pulling out my wallet. The total was $47.82. Groceries, mostly. Basic things like bread, eggs, milk. Nothing extravagant. "No, Sarah, I can't let you." "Mom, it's fine." I handed my card to the cashier before she could protest further. As we loaded the bags into her 2008 Honda Civic, the same car she'd been driving since I was in college, I studied her profile. When had she gotten so many gray hairs? When had the lines around her eyes become so deep? "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly as we drove back to the house where I'd grown up, the house that suddenly looked smaller and shabbier than I remembered. "When's the last time you went grocery shopping?" I asked. "We go all the time." "I mean, really shopping, not just bare essentials." She didn't answer, which was answer enough. This was supposed to be a casual Sunday visit. I lived 40 minutes away in Portland, had a good job as a marketing manager at a tech startup, a nice apartment, a life I'd built from the ground up. I visited my parents every few weeks, usually brought them dinner or took them out, but lately they've been declining the restaurant invitations. "Too tired," my dad would say. "We already ate," my mom would claim. I'd started to notice other things too. The thermostat set lower than I remembered, even in winter. The way they'd portion food carefully, making leftovers stretch. The light in the garage that had been burned out for 3 months because we'll get to it. These were the people who'd put me through college, who'd taken annual vacations to the coast, who'd always had season tickets to the local theater. My dad had been a high school principal. My mom had worked as a nurse for 30 years before retiring. They should have been comfortable. Instead, they looked worn down, exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. "How's Ryan?" I asked as we pulled into the driveway. My mother's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He's fine. Good. Really good, actually." "Still in that new apartment downtown?" "Yes, he loves it there." I helped her carry the groceries inside. My father was in his recliner, the same recliner he'd had for 20 years, now held together with duct tape on one arm, watching a baseball game. "Hey, Pumpkin," he said, using the nickname he'd called me since I was 5. "Hey, Dad, how are you feeling?" "Can't complain." But he looked pale, and when he stood to hug me, he moved carefully, like his body hurt. "You okay?" "Just getting old." He laughed, but it sounded forced. I stayed for a couple of hours, making small talk, trying not to stare at the peeling wallpaper in the kitchen or the fact that they were still using the same ancient microwave that barely heated food anymore. When I left, I hugged them both extra tight. "Love you guys. Call me if you need anything, okay?" "We will, sweetie. Drive safe." On the drive home, I called my brother. It went to voicemail. It always went to voicemail lately. "Hey, Ryan, it's Sarah. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a while. Call me back when you get a chance." He didn't call back. 3 weeks later, I got the call that changed everything. "Sarah?" My mother's voice was high and tight, barely controlled panic. "Your father's in the hospital. He had a heart attack." The world tilted. "What? When? Is he—" "He's stable. We're at Providence. Can you come?" I was there in 30 minutes, breaking probably a dozen traffic laws. I found my mother in the cardiac ICU waiting room, looking 10 years older than she had 3 weeks ago. "Mom!" I wrapped her in my arms. She felt fragile, like she might break. "He collapsed at home. I called 911. Sarah, I thought. Her voice broke. He's going to be okay. He's stable, right? That's what you said? She nodded against my shoulder. Where's Ryan? She stiffened. I called him. He said he'd try to come by tomorrow. Try to come by tomorrow? Our father was in the ICU after a heart attack, and Ryan would try to come by tomorrow? A doctor came out an hour later. Dad had suffered a moderate heart attack. They'd done an emergency angioplasty, placed a stent. He'd need to stay for observation, probably 3 to 5 days. Then cardiac rehab, lifestyle changes, medication. Does he have significant stress in his life? The doctor asked, looking at both of us. My mother's face did something complicated. Some normal stress. The doctor looked like he wanted to press further, but didn't. Stress management will be crucial for his recovery. I'll have our social worker come talk to you about resources. They let us see him around 8 p.m. He was pale, connected to monitors and IVs, but conscious. He smiled weakly when he saw me. Hey, Pumpkin. Sorry to scare you. I burst into tears. Dad, God, you scared me so much. I'm okay. Just a warning shot, right? He tried to joke, but his voice was weak. Over the next few days, I became the family liaison with the hospital. My mother was too overwhelmed, too exhausted. I talked to doctors, nurses, social workers. I filled out paperwork. I made sure Dad's insurance information was current. That's how I ended up handling his medical billing. The hospital needed his insurance cards, his ID, and because there was some confusion about his coverage, his recent bank statements to verify his address and account information for billing purposes. They're in the filing cabinet, my mother said, distracted, staring at my father's sleeping form through the ICU window. Bottom drawer, labeled bank stuff. I went to their house to retrieve the documents, let myself in with the key I'd had since high school. The house was quiet, stuffy. I opened a window and went to my father's small home office. The filing cabinet was old, metal, the kind that belonged in a 1970s office building. I found the drawer labeled bank stuff and pulled out a thick folder. Inside were bank statements going back 6 months. I grabbed them and was about to close the folder when I noticed another stack underneath, rubber banded together. Those went back further. I shouldn't have looked. It wasn't my business. I was just supposed to get the current information for the hospital. But something made me pull out that rubber banded stack. Maybe it was the memory of my mother's credit card declining. Maybe it was the way they'd been living, carefully, stretched thin, denying themselves everything. I opened the first statement, from last month. Standard stuff. Automatic deposits, my father's pension, my mother's social security, some automatic payments, utilities, insurance, mortgage. Then I saw the withdrawals. $2,500 on the 3rd, cash withdrawal. $3,000 on the 17th, cash withdrawal. $2,200 on the 28th, cash withdrawal. My hands started shaking. I grabbed another statement, the month before. $2,800 on the 5th, cash withdrawal. $3,200 on the 19th, cash withdrawal. $2,000 on the 30th, cash withdrawal. I went through all the statements, every single month, going back as far as the stack went, which was 2 years. There were large cash withdrawals, sometimes 2 per month, sometimes 3, amounts ranging from $2,000 to $3,500. I did quick mental math, approximately $7,000 to $8,000 per month for 2 years. That was nearly $200,000. My legs gave out. I sat down hard on the floor, surrounded by bank statements, trying to understand what I was seeing. Where was this money going? Gambling? No. My parents had never shown any interest in gambling. My father liked baseball but never bet on it. A secret illness? Medical bills? But they had good insurance, and there'd be paper trails, hospital bills, something. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. "Hi, honey. Did you find the statements?" "Mom." My voice came out strangled. "Every month, thousands of dollars, for years. Where is this money going?" "We can't talk about this right now." "Yes, we can. Yes, we absolutely can. You're broke because someone is draining your bank account. Who? Is someone stealing from you? Is it fraud? Because if it is, we need to call the police." "It's not fraud." "Then what is it?" More silence. Then, quietly, "We can't tell you." "Can't or won't?" "Sarah, please. Your father just had a heart attack. Can we please not do this right now?" "Mom, if someone is taking advantage of you—" "No one is taking advantage of us. We're making choices. There are choices. And I'm asking you, as your mother, to drop this right now." She hung up. I sat on the floor of my father's office, surrounded by evidence of financial hemorrhaging, and tried to think. Who would my parents give nearly $200,000 to? The answer came immediately, though I didn't want to believe it. Ryan. I didn't confront them immediately. My father needed to recover, needed to be stable, but I started paying attention in a way I hadn't before. I went through more of their financial documents. I told myself it was necessary, that I needed to understand the scope of whatever was happening. What I found made me sick. The cash withdrawals went back 5 years. 5 years of monthly withdrawals totaling between $6,000 and $9,000. I did the full calculation. Over $150,000, maybe closer to $180,000. Gone. They'd refinanced their house 3 years ago. I found the paperwork. They'd pulled out $75,000 in equity. My mother's retirement account, which should have had at least $200,000, had $32,000. They had one credit card that was maxed out at $15,000. They were making minimum payments. My parents, who'd been financially responsible my entire life, who'd taught me about saving and budgeting, who'd never carried credit card debt, were drowning. And Ryan. I started really looking at Ryan. His Instagram showed a lifestyle that didn't match his supposed income. He worked sporadically as a consultant, whatever that meant, but his posts showed expensive restaurants, new clothes, what looked like a high-end apartment. 6 months ago, he'd posted a picture of a brand new Tesla. New ride, dreams do come true. #blessed, living my best life. Our mother had commented, "So proud of you, honey." I'd thought at the time, good for Ryan, he must be doing well. Now I thought, where did he get the money for a Tesla? I started scrolling back through his social media history. 5 years of posts, and the pattern was clear. Expensive lifestyle, vague employment, periodic disappearances followed by comeback posts about new chapters and fresh starts. 3 years ago, there was a post, 90 days strong, taking it one day at a time, #recovery, #sobriety. Recovery, sobriety. I'd seen that post at the time, but hadn't thought much about it. Ryan had always liked to party. I'd assumed he meant he was cutting back on drinking or something. But now, I called Ryan. Again, voicemail. "Ryan, it's Sarah. Again. Dad had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. I know Mom called you 4 days ago. Where are you?" He called back 2 hours later. "Hey, Sarah, sorry, I've been swamped with work. How's Dad?" "He's recovering. Where are you?" I told you, work stuff. I'll try to get by this weekend. Ryan, we need to talk. About what? About mom and dad's finances. Pause. What about them? About where their money's going. Another pause, longer. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Look, Sarah, I really have to go. Tell Dad I'm thinking about him. He hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, rage building in my chest. Dad came home from the hospital on Wednesday. I took the day off work to help get him settled. My mother fussed over him, making sure he took his medications, ate his prescribed low-sodium lunch, rested. He looked frail in a way that terrified me. This was the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd coached my soccer team, who'd seemed invincible my entire childhood. Now he looked breakable. Dad, I said when my mother went to the kitchen, we need to talk about your finances. His face went gray. Sarah, because it became my business when your stress levels contributed to a heart attack. It became my business when I had to pay for Mom's groceries because her card declined. It became my business when I realized you've drained your retirement trying to... I stopped. Where is the money going, Dad? He closed his eyes. I can't talk about this. Can't or won't. Both. Is it Ryan? His eyes snapped open. Who told you that? No one had to tell me. I'm not stupid. He's the only person you do this for. What's going on with him? Sarah, I love you, but you need to drop this. Some things are private. Family things. I'm family. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Explain it to me. Explain why you're bankrupting yourselves for Ryan. Explain why he gets nearly $200,000 while you can't afford to replace a light bulb. Explain why Mom's credit card gets declined at Target. My mother appeared in the doorway. Sarah, that's enough. No, it's not enough. Not even close. You're killing yourselves for him. Dad literally had a heart attack. The heart attack wasn't Ryan's fault. Are you sure? Because the doctor asked about stress, and I'm guessing financial stress from hemorrhaging money for 5 years might be a factor. They both went quiet. My father looked away. My mother's eyes filled with tears. He's our son, she whispered. So am I. I'm your daughter, but I don't see you giving me $3,000 a month. I don't see you destroying your retirement for me. You don't need it. You're doing well. You have a good job, a nice apartment. Because I worked for it, because I didn't expect you to bankroll my life. What's wrong with Ryan? Why does he need this money? They looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, my father spoke. He made us promise not to tell you. Well, I'm here. I already know something is going on, and unless you want me to show up at his apartment and demand answers, you'd better tell me now. Another long silence. Then my mother, so quietly I almost didn't hear, he's an addict. The word hung in the air. What kind of addict? Heroin, my father said. Started with painkillers after a back injury about 6 years ago. Then, when the prescription ran out, he found other sources. I felt like I'd been punched. 6 years? He's been using heroin for 6 years and no one told me? He made us promise. He was ashamed. He said if you found out, it would destroy your image of him. Destroy my... I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. He's been bleeding you dry for 5 years. Did the drug start before or after the money started flowing? Sarah, don't. No, I'm serious. When did the withdrawal start? Because I'm betting it started right around when he needed help. My mother sat down heavily. He came to us 5 years ago. He'd lost his job. He was about to be evicted. He said he'd been using and wanted to stop, but he needed help. He needed money for rehab. And you gave it to him. Of course we did. He's our son. He was asking for help. How much rehab costs $7,000 a month? They didn't answer. Mom? Dad? How much did you actually give him for rehab? My father's voice was hollow. The first program was $30,000. We paid for it in full. And he relapsed after 6 weeks. So you paid for another one. We paid for 5, my mother whispered. 5 different programs over 3 years, some of them multiple times. How much? Total? Maybe $150,000 just for treatment? My mind reeled. And the rest of the money, the monthly withdrawals that are still happening? His rent, his car payment, his dealers. You've been paying his drug dealers? They threatened him, my mother burst out. He owed them money. They said they'd hurt him. What were we supposed to do? Let him face the consequences. Let him hit rock bottom. That's literally what every expert says about addiction. You can't enable them. We're not enabling him. We're keeping him alive. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you've given him nearly $200,000 over 5 years, and he's still using. So your money hasn't kept him alive. It's kept him comfortable enough to keep using. My father made a sound like I slapped him. Sarah, that's cruel, my mother said. Is it, or is it true? I stood up, too agitated to sit. Where is he right now? Right this second? At work, probably. What's his job? He does consulting. For who? What company? Doing what? They didn't know. Of course they didn't know. Has he had a job, a real, actual job with a W-2 and everything at any point in the last 5 years? Silence. So you've been supporting him entirely, paying his rent, his car, his drugs, his dealers, his legal fees? Legal fees, my father interrupted. Who told you about legal fees? I hadn't known about legal fees. I'd been guessing, but his reaction told me everything. What did he do? 3 DUIs, my mother said quietly, over the last 4 years. The legal costs, we had to get him a good lawyer. If he'd gotten jail time, maybe jail time would have helped. Prison doesn't help addicts, Sarah. It makes them worse. And money clearly hasn't helped either. But sure, let's keep trying the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Don't you dare judge us, my father said, and there was steel in his voice despite his weakness. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to watch your child destroy themselves and feel completely powerless. You don't know what it's like to get a call at 2 a.m. from the police saying they found him unconscious in his car. You don't know what it's like to sit in an emergency room and pray that this isn't the overdose that kills him. I stopped pacing. How many times has he overdosed? Twice that we know of, my mother whispered, but there might have been others. I sat down, the fight draining out of me. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me? He made us promise, and we thought we could fix it. We thought if we just helped him, just gave him one more chance, just paid for one more program, he'd get better. But he hasn't. No, my father said. He hasn't. We sat in terrible silence. Finally, I asked, "When's the last time you talked to him?" "Yesterday," my mother said. "He called to check on your father." "Did he ask for money?" Her face crumpled. "His rent is due. He's short $800. "Are you going to give it to him?" "If we don't, he'll get evicted. Then he'll be on the streets. And Sarah, if he's on the streets, he might die," I finished. "But Mom, Dad, he might die anyway. He's using heroin. He's had 2 overdoses, 3 DUIs. How is what you're doing helping?" "We don't know what else to do," my father said, and he started to cry. My strong, stoic father crying openly. "We don't know how to save him." I went to him, wrapped my arms around him carefully, mindful of his recovering heart. You can't save him, Dad. He has to save himself. But we're his parents. We're supposed to protect him. You can't protect someone from themselves. My mother joined our hug, the three of us holding each other in their shabby living room, grieving the son and brother who was still alive, but had been lost for years. I left their house and drove straight to Ryan's apartment, the nice apartment downtown, the one they were paying for. He didn't answer his buzzer. I waited outside until someone exited the building and caught the door. I went up to his unit, 3B, and pounded on the door. Ryan, open up. I know you're home. Nothing. Ryan, I swear to God I will call the police and tell them I'm concerned about your welfare and have them do a wellness check. Open the door. After a minute, I heard the deadbolt slide. The door opened a crack. Ryan peered out, and I barely recognized him. He'd always been handsome, tall, athletic build, bright blue eyes, like our mother, the golden child, the one who could charm anyone. The man in the doorway was gaunt, with yellowed skin and hollow eyes. He looked 50, not 35. What do you want, Sarah? To talk. Let me in. Not a good time. I don't care. Let me in or I'm making a scene in the hallway. He hesitated, then opened the door. The apartment was nice, high ceilings, modern finishes, exactly the kind of place that would cost $2,500 downtown. But it was trashed, fast food containers everywhere, dishes piled in the sink, trash overflowing, and a smell, something sweet and chemical and wrong. Jesus, Ryan. I've been busy, haven't had time to clean. Busy with what? You don't have a job. His jaw tightened. Who told you that? Does it matter? I know everything. I know about the drugs, the money, all of it. He went very still. They promised they wouldn't tell you. Dad had a heart attack. I saw their bank statements. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? He sat down on his couch, a nice leather couch, probably expensive. Is Dad okay? No, Ryan, he's not. He had a heart attack partially caused by the stress of bankrupting himself to support your drug habit. So no, he's not okay. That's not fair. Isn't it? He's drained his retirement, maxed out credit cards, refinanced the house, mom's living on food stamps practically, all so you can keep using. I'm trying to stop. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're living in a nice apartment they pay for, driving a Tesla they probably helped finance, and still using. That doesn't look like trying to stop. That looks like having your cake and eating it too. His face flushed. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Explain how you've burned through nearly $200,000 of their money and you're still using. It's not that simple. Then make it simple. Because here's what I see. You got hurt, got addicted to painkillers, graduated to heroin, and have been manipulating our parents into enabling your addiction for 5 years. Am I missing anything? I know addiction is a disease, but you're not treating it. You're just asking them to fund it. I've been to rehab 5 times. And? Did you actually want to get clean, or did you just want them to think you were trying so they'd keep giving you money? He stood up fast, angry now. Fuck you, Sarah. You have no idea what this is like. You have no idea what it's like to need something so badly that you'd do anything, lie, steal, manipulate, just to make the pain stop. You're right. I don't know. But I know what it's like to watch our parents destroy themselves trying to save you. I know what it's like to see Dad recovering from a heart attack, crying because he doesn't know how to help you. I know what it's like to watch Mom's credit card get declined buying groceries. I didn't ask them to do that. Yes, you did. Every time you called saying you needed rent money or money for dealers or money for rehab, every time you showed up with some sob story about how this time would be different, you asked. He sat back down, deflating. I don't know how to stop. Then actually go to rehab. Actually commit to it. and not some 30-day luxury place. Real, long-term treatment. I've tried. No, you've gone through the motions. There's a difference. He was quiet for a long time. Then, so quietly I almost didn't hear. I'm scared. Of what? Of failing again. Of letting them down again. Of... He looked up and his eyes were wet. Of being sober. Of having to feel everything without something to numb it. And just like that, my anger cracked. Because underneath the manipulation and the lies and the money, this was still my brother. The kid who taught me to ride a bike. Who'd scared off my first boyfriend when he was mean to me. Who'd cried at my college graduation because he was so proud. Ryan. I sat down next to him, maintaining some distance. You have to actually want to get clean. Not for them. Not to make them stop worrying. For you. Do you want that? I don't know, he admitted. Sometimes I think I do, but then I think about what my life would be like sober and it seems impossible, like I wouldn't even know who I am. Then maybe it's time to find out. What if I can't do it? Then you can't, but right now you're not even trying. You're just taking their money and getting high and pretending that's the same as recovery. He put his head in his hands. They're going to cut me off, aren't they? Now that you know. I don't know, but Ryan, they should. What they've been doing isn't helping you, it's enabling you. If they cut me off, I'll lose everything. The apartment, the car, everything. Maybe you need to lose everything. Maybe that's what it takes. He looked up at me, and the fear in his eyes was real. What if I die? The question hung between us, because it was a real possibility. Addicts who lose their support systems sometimes do die. Overdoses, exposure, violence. What if you die anyway? I asked quietly. You've already overdosed twice. How many more chances do you think you get? He didn't answer. I stood up. I'm going to talk to Mom and Dad. I'm going to tell them they need to stop giving you money. But Ryan, I'll help you with one thing. I'll pay for long-term rehab. Real rehab. At least 6 months, maybe a year, inpatient. And when you get out, I'll help you find a sober living house. But that's it. No rent money, no car payments, no bailing you out. Just treatment and a real chance to get clean. That's my offer. And if I say no, then you're on your own, and so are Mom and Dad, because I'm going to make sure they stop enabling you. He stared at me. You'd really do that? Just cut me off? To save your life? Yes. To save their lives? Absolutely. I walked to the door. Sarah? I turned. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not being better. I know. But sorry doesn't fix this. Action does. Think about what I said. I left him sitting in his trashed apartment and I cried the whole drive home. The intervention happened 3 days later. I'd spent those 3 days researching addiction treatment, talking to counselors, and finding a family therapist who specialized in addiction. I also consulted with a lawyer about the financial situation. There were options for protecting my parents' assets, but they'd need to be willing to make hard choices. I gathered my parents in their living room. My father was still weak, but stronger than he'd been. My mother looked exhausted, aged beyond her years. We need to talk about Ryan, I began. Sarah, we've already discussed. No, we haven't. You told me about the problem. We haven't discussed the solution. I laid out everything I'd learned. The statistics on enabling versus tough love, the success rates of addicts who face real consequences versus those who don't, the financial devastation they were facing. If they continued at this rate, they'd have nothing left in 2 years. No retirement, no emergency fund, nothing. If something happens to you, I said gently, looking at my father, if you have another heart attack or Mom gets sick, you'll have no resources. You'll have nothing, and Ryan will still be using. My mother was crying silently. My father stared at his hands. I've found a program. It's called New Horizons. It's a year-long, intensive inpatient program. It has a 60% success rate, which is really high for addiction treatment. It costs $45,000 for the full year. We don't have $45,000, my father said. I know, but I do. I have savings, and I'm willing to pay for it, but only if Ryan commits, fully commits, and only if you two agree to stop giving him money. If we stop giving him money, he might lose his apartment, his car. He might end up on the street for a while. Yes, that might happen. But Mom, Dad, what you're doing isn't working. He's not getting better. He's just getting more comfortable being an addict. He could die if we cut him off, my mother whispered. He could die anyway. At least this way he has a real chance. We talked for hours. They resisted, argued, cried. The idea of cutting off their child, even to help him, went against every parental instinct they had. But finally, exhausted and wrung out, they agreed, on one condition. They wanted to be there when we told Ryan. They wanted to explain it to him themselves. We called him, asked him to come over. He knew something was up. His voice on the phone was wary, but he agreed. He showed up 2 hours later, looking terrible, probably high, though he was trying to hide it. We all sat down. My mother held my father's hand. Ryan, Dad began, his voice shaking. We love you. We've always loved you. But we've realized we've been hurting you by trying to help you. Ryan's expression shifted from confusion to anger. Sarah got to you. Sarah showed us what we've been refusing to see, Mom said. We've been enabling your addiction, not treating it. So what, you're cutting me off, just like that? We're offering you real help, I interjected. I'll pay for a year-long inpatient program, the best one I could find. But you have to commit, actually commit. And if I don't, then we're done, Dad said, and his voice broke. We can't give you any more money. We've destroyed our retirement. Your mother and I will have to work until we die because we have nothing left. And I just had a heart attack, Ryan. I might not live to see retirement anyway. Don't put that on me, Ryan said, but he looked shaken. I'm not putting it on you. I'm just telling you the truth. The stress of this, of trying to save you, of watching you destroy yourself, it's killing us, literally. Ryan looked between the three of us. So this is it. Take Sarah's offer or you're done with me. We'll never be done with you, Mom said through tears. You're our son. We'll always love you. But we can't watch you die slowly while we bankrupt ourselves pretending we're helping. Ryan stood up. This is bullshit. You're abandoning me. We're trying to save you, I said. There's a difference. Fuck you, Sarah. This is all you. You poisoned them against me. I showed them the truth. That's not poison. He looked at our parents one more time. So that's it. After everything? The offer stands. New Horizons. 1 year, fully paid. But you have to want it. And if I walk out this door, then we love you, and we'll pray for you. But we can't help you anymore, Dad said. Ryan laughed bitterly. You call this help? He headed for the door, and I thought he was going to leave. My heart clenched. My mother made a small sound of pain. But at the door, Ryan stopped, his hand on the knob, his back to us. What if I fail again? His voice was so small, so broken. Then you fail, I said, but at least you'll have actually tried. I'm scared. I know. He turned around and tears were streaming down his face. I don't know if I can do this. You can't do it alone, Mom said, standing up. But you don't have to. We'll visit you. We'll write you. We'll be there for your recovery, the real recovery, not the fake attempts where we just threw money at the problem. What about my apartment, my car? You'll lose them, I said bluntly. But Ryan, you'll gain your life back. He slid down the door until he was sitting on the floor, head in his hands. I've fucked up so bad. Yes, Dad said. You have. But you can start fixing it today, right now. What if I can't be the person you want me to be? We just want you to be alive and sober, Mom said. That's it. We don't care what job you have or where you live or what you drive. We just want our son back. Ryan cried for a long time. We let him. This grief, this acknowledgement, it felt like the first honest emotion he'd shown in years. Finally, he looked up. Okay. Okay? I asked. Okay, I'll do the program, the year-long one. My mother gasped, hand to her mouth. My father closed his eyes in relief. But I need help, Ryan continued. I can't just walk away from everything cold turkey. I need medical detox first, and I need someone to help me with my stuff. The apartment, the car, all of it. I'll help, I said. We'll do it together. When would I start? New Horizons has an opening in 5 days, but we need you to get into medical detox tomorrow. I already called. There's a facility that can take you. They'll manage the withdrawal safely, then transfer you directly to New Horizons. He looked terrified. 5 days? 5 days, I confirmed. Can I say goodbye to people? I hesitated. Goodbye to people could mean goodbye to dealers or one last hurrah. But he was an adult. I couldn't control him. Yes. But Ryan, if you use between now and then, the program won't take you. They drug test at intake, so you need to think about what's more important. One more high or your life. He nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. The next 48 hours were hell. Ryan went home to pack and prepare. I wanted to go with him, but my family therapist, who I'd been consulting throughout, advised giving him space to make his own choice. He has to come to detox willingly, she said. If you force him, he'll just run the first chance he gets. So I waited and worried and didn't sleep. My parents didn't sleep either. Mom called me 6 times the first night. What if he doesn't show up? What if he runs? What if he... Mom, we'll deal with whatever happens, but we have to let him make this choice. The medical detox facility was expecting him at 9 a.m. on Monday. I told him I'd pick him up at 8. He said he'd take an Uber, that he needed to do this himself. Monday morning, I was at the detox center by 8:30, despite his protests. I sat in the parking lot watching the entrance, praying. 8:45, no Ryan. 9 o'clock, no Ryan. 9:15, I was about to drive to his apartment when an Uber pulled up. Ryan got out. He looked rough, shaking, pale, clearly in the early stages of withdrawal. He had a duffel bag and a backpack. That was it. Everything he owned that mattered, apparently, fit in 2 bags. I got out of my car and met him at the entrance. You came, I said. I almost didn't. I was in the Uber and I kept thinking of reasons to turn around. But then I thought about Dad crying, about Mom's credit card getting declined, about you offering to pay $45,000 for a brother who's been a complete fuck-up. His voice cracked. So yeah, I came. I'm proud of you. Don't be proud yet. I haven't done anything. You showed up. That's something. We walked in together. The facility was clean, medical, nothing like the luxury rehabs our parents had paid for before. This was serious treatment, not a vacation disguised as recovery. The intake process took 2 hours. Medical history, drug history, psychiatric evaluation, consent forms. Ryan was honest in a way I'd never heard him be before, admitting to daily use, to the amounts, to the lies. When they asked about his motivation for treatment, he said, "My family deserves better than what I've been giving them, and I deserve better than this. I'm 35 years old and I have nothing. I want a life." They took him back to the detox unit. I was allowed to walk with him to the door. "Hey," I said, hugging him carefully, "you can do this." "I'm scared, Sarah." "I know, but you're not alone. I'll visit. Mom and Dad will visit. And when you transfer to New Horizons, we'll be there too. What if I let you down again? Then we'll deal with it. But Ryan, I don't think you will. I think you're finally ready." He hugged me tighter. "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when you gave me every reason to. You're my brother. I love you, even when you're a complete disaster." He laughed, a wet sound. "That's fair." A nurse came to take him to his room. I watched him walk away, his shoulders hunched, his gait unsteady, but he was walking toward help, finally. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried, from relief, from exhaustion, from grief for all the years we'd lost to his addiction. Then I called my parents. "He's in," I said. "He checked himself in. He's in detox." My mother sobbed. My father said, "Thank God, thank God." The next 7 days were agonizing. Ryan went through medical detox, which was brutal. Heroin withdrawal is no joke. Fever, chills, vomiting, pain, insomnia, anxiety. But the medical staff managed his symptoms, kept him safe, got him through the worst of it. We weren't allowed to visit during detox, but I called every day for updates. "He's struggling," the nurse told me on day 3, "but he's committed. He hasn't asked to leave." On day 8, he was transferred to New Horizons. It was 3 hours away, in a rural area, deliberately isolated. No visitors for the first 30 days. They needed to break the patient's connection to their old lives, help them focus entirely on recovery. But we could write letters. I wrote him every other day. Not long letters, just check-ins, telling him about my day, about Mom and Dad, about stupid things like the cat we'd gotten my parents. My idea. They needed something to care for that wasn't Ryan. Mom wrote him every single day. Dad wrote once a week, but his letters were long, heartfelt essays about love and failure and hope. After 30 days, we were allowed a visit. We drove the 3 hours together, me, Mom, and Dad. Dad was recovered enough to travel, though he tired easily. The facility was beautiful, nestled in mountains, with hiking trails and gardens, nothing like the cold medical detox center. But it wasn't luxury either. It was serious, structured, therapeutic. Ryan met us in the family visiting room. He looked different. For one thing, healthier. His skin didn't have that yellowish tinge anymore. But more than that, he looked present, like he was actually inhabiting his body instead of just piloting it from a distance. "I stole from you years ago when you still lived at home. You had money saved up for your study abroad program. Remember, it went missing?" I remembered. I'd been devastated. I'd saved for 2 years. The money disappeared from my room and I'd blamed myself for not hiding it better. "That was you?" "That was me. I took it. $2,300. I used it to buy pills. And I let you think you'd lost it or been careless. I'm sorry." I sat down hard. I'd forgotten about that money until this moment, but now the memory came flooding back. The devastation, the shame of telling my parents I'd lost it, the guilt. Did Mom and Dad know? I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe. Maybe they suspected and didn't want to believe it. "Why are you telling me now?" "Because making amends is part of recovery. I need to own everything I did. And Sarah, I did a lot. I stole from you, I lied to you, I made you feel crazy for questioning things. I gaslit you when you asked about my life. I resented you for being successful when my failure was my own fault. I need you to know all of it." "Okay. Are you mad?" "Yeah, I'm mad. I'm furious, actually. But I'm also glad you told me. It's honest. Finally. I want to pay you back. When I get out, when I get a job, I want to pay you back that $2,300 plus interest. It'll take time, but I will. We'll figure it out. Just focus on your recovery." I am. For the first time, I really am. Ryan graduated from the New Horizons program on a crisp October afternoon, almost exactly 6 years after his addiction had started draining our family. We were all there. Mom, Dad, me, even Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, who'd been estranged from the family because she'd tried to warn my parents about enabling Ryan years ago. She'd been right. They'd admitted it, apologized, she'd come back. Ryan stood with 12 other graduates, looking healthy and proud and terrified. He gave a short speech about what he'd learned, thanked his counselors, thanked us. My family didn't give up on me even when they should have. They loved me enough to stop enabling me and start helping me for real. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me. After the ceremony, we took pictures. Ryan looked uncomfortable with the attention, but pleased, proud. "What's next?" I asked as we walked to the parking lot. "Sober living house for 6 months. I already have a place lined up. It's in Beaverton, about 20 minutes from you. Then I need to find a job, a real job." "What do you want to do?" He laughed. "I have no idea. I'm 36 years old and I've never really had a career. I need to figure out who I am without drugs." That's scary. Terrifying, but also kind of exciting, like I get a second chance to build a life. You do. And Ryan, I'll help. Not with money. I don't want money from you, any of you. I need to do this myself. I was going to say I'll help with job applications, interview prep, that kind of thing. I work in tech. I have connections. If you want to try something in that field, I can introduce you to people. You'd do that? After everything? You're my brother, and you're actually trying now, so yeah, I'll help. He hugged me, and it felt real, present, sober. The first 6 months of Ryan's sobriety outside of treatment were hard. He lived in the sober house, worked at a coffee shop to pay his rent and build work history, went to AA meetings daily, saw a therapist twice a week. He struggled with the mundanity of regular life, the boredom, the routine, the absence of the high that had structured his days for years. He called me twice in crisis, desperate for drugs, on the edge of a relapse. Both times I talked him through it, reminded him of his tools, and offered to come sit with him until the craving passed. Both times he stayed sober. He paid back $100 from his coffee shop wages. I told him I didn't need it, but he insisted. It matters to me. I need to do this. He showed up to family dinners. Sometimes he was quiet, struggling. Sometimes he was the old Ryan, funny, charming, present. We learned to appreciate both versions. My parents learned to ask him about his recovery without hovering, to support without enabling, to love without rescuing. It wasn't perfect. We all still had baggage, resentment, hurt feelings that would take years to fully heal. But we were honest about it now. We talked about things instead of pretending everything was fine. At the 1-year mark of Ryan's sobriety, we had a small celebration at my parents' house, just the 4 of us and Aunt Linda. Ryan stood up with sparkling cider and raised his glass. "A year ago, I was in detox, scared out of my mind. I'd lost everything, my apartment, my car, my dignity. I'd stolen from my family, lied to everyone, and nearly killed myself with my addiction. I was broke, broken, and hopeless." He looked at each of us. "But you guys didn't give up on me. You stopped enabling me, which felt like abandonment at the time, but was actually love, real love, the kind that's hard and hurts, but saves lives." His voice cracked. "Sarah, you paid $45,000 for my treatment when I'd given you every reason to walk away. Mom and Dad, you chose your own financial health and my real recovery over the comfortable lie that giving me money was helping. That took courage I don't know if I could have had." He wiped his eyes. "I'm not fixed. I'm not cured. I'm an addict, and I'll be an addict forever. But I'm a sober addict. I'm building a life. I got promoted to shift supervisor at the coffee shop. I'm taking online classes in IT. I have friends who don't use. I have a sponsor. I have hope." He raised his glass higher. "So thank you for loving me enough to let me hit bottom, for helping me climb back up, for believing I could be more than my addiction. I love you guys." We clinked glasses, crying and laughing and holding each other. It's been 3 years now since Ryan got sober. 3 years of ups and downs, of building and rebuilding trust, of learning who we all are as a family without addiction at the center. Ryan completed his IT certification and got a job as a junior developer at a tech company. He moved into his own apartment, a modest one-bedroom that he pays for himself. He's dating someone he met at a woman named Jennifer, who's been sober for 5 years and works as a social worker. He paid me back the $2,300 he stole, plus another $5,000 toward the cost of his treatment. I tried to refuse it, but he insisted. I need to make this right. It's part of my recovery. My parents rebuilt their retirement savings. It's not where it should be, but it's growing. They're more careful now, more boundaried. They love Ryan, but they don't rescue him. They've learned the difference. Dad's heart is healthy. He and Mom volunteer together now at a recovery center, sharing their story with other parents of addicts, helping them understand that enabling isn't love, that tough love is sometimes the most loving thing you can do. And me? I learned that family is complicated, that love isn't always enough, but it's always necessary, that you can be angry at someone and still fight for them, that the line between helping and enabling is thin, but crucial. Last week, Ryan showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, and for a split second, I felt that old panic. What does he need? What's wrong? But he was smiling. I got a promotion, senior developer, and Sarah, I wanted you to be the first to know, besides Jennifer. Ryan, that's amazing. It is, and I know I'm 3 years sober and I shouldn't need validation, but I'm really fucking proud of myself. You should be. I'm proud of you too. We sat on my couch, eating takeout, talking about his new responsibilities at work, about Jennifer, about the fact that he and Jennifer are thinking about getting a dog. A dog is a big responsibility, I teased. I know, but I think I'm ready. I've kept myself alive and sober for 3 years. I think I can handle a dog. Fair point. As he was leaving, he turned back. Hey, Sarah? Yeah? Thank you. For that day you came to my apartment and told me the truth, for refusing to watch me kill myself slowly, for being the only one brave enough to say the hard things. You saved my life. You saved your own life. I just stopped enabling you to throw it away. Same thing, kind of. Not really, but I'm glad I could help. He hugged me. I love you, and I'm sorry it took me so long to be the brother you deserved. I love you too. And Ryan, you're being that brother now. That's what matters. He left, and I stood at my window watching him walk to his car that he'd bought himself with money he'd earned himself. I watched him drive away, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years when it came to Ryan. Peace. The story of our family's addiction isn't a neat tale with a perfect ending. It's messy, complicated, full of mistakes and pain and slow, difficult healing. But it's also a story of survival, of learning that love sometimes means letting go, that you can't save someone who doesn't want to save themselves, that the hardest choices are sometimes the most necessary. My brother is an addict. He'll always be an addict. But today, right now, he's a sober addict, building a life worth living. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. Epilogue. 5 years after Ryan entered treatment, my father had a milestone birthday, 70. We threw him a party, a real one this time, one we could actually afford. Ryan showed up with Jennifer and their dog, a goofy golden retriever named Hope. He'd been sober for 5 years, 3 months, and 7 days. Not that he was counting compulsively, he just liked to remember how far he'd come. At the party, surrounded by family and friends, Dad gave a speech. Getting old isn't for the weak, he joked, and everyone laughed. But I'm grateful to be here. 5 years ago, I had a heart attack. The doctor said stress was a major factor. They were right. He looked at Ryan. My son was killing himself with addiction, and we were killing ourselves trying to save him the wrong way. We were enabling him, bankrupting ourselves, destroying our health, and we couldn't see it until Sarah made us look. He looked at me, his eyes wet. My daughter had the courage to tell us hard truths, to stop the cycle, to offer real help instead of fake help. She saved her brother's life by refusing to let him stay comfortable in his addiction, and she saved ours too. He raised his glass. So this toast is to family, to hard conversations, to real love, not comfortable love, to second chances and new beginnings, to Sarah for her courage, to Ryan for his recovery, and to my beautiful wife who learned with me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop doing what feels loving and start doing what actually helps. We all raised our glasses, crying and laughing. Later, as the party wound down, Ryan and I stood in the backyard watching Hope chase a tennis ball. "Can you believe we're here?" Ryan asked. "5 years ago, I was in detox, convinced I'd never make it." "I can believe it. You worked hard for this." "We all did. The whole family." "Yeah, we did." "Sarah, can I tell you something?" "Always." Sometimes I still want to use. Not often, but sometimes. When things get stressful or overwhelming or just boring. And in those moments, I think about that day in my trashed apartment when you told me I had to choose, the drugs or my life. And I think about everything I would have missed if I'd chosen wrong. What would you have missed? This, all of this. Jennifer, Hope, my job, my apartment, family dinners where no one's walking on eggshells, mom and dad looking happy instead of exhausted, your respect, my own respect for myself. He looked at me. I would have missed having a life, and that's worth more than any high ever was. I'm glad you chose life. Me too. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the dog, watching our parents laugh with friends, watching the sun set on another day of sobriety, of family, of healing. The story isn't over. Recovery is ongoing, forever. There will be more hard days, more challenges, more temptations, but we know now how to face them, honestly, together, without enabling or rescuing or pretending. We know that love isn't about protecting people from consequences, it's about supporting them through consequences. It's about being there for the hard work of recovery, not the comfortable fiction of enabling. We learned it the hard way, at a great cost, but we learned it. And that knowledge, that painful, expensive, heartbreaking knowledge, saved all of our lives.